What's up, guys? It is Friday after the street bash, degenerate bash, whatever you want to call it, that we had last week. It was, just as I expected, an awesome freaking time. I'm super glad I did it. However, now I'm way behind. I'm supposed to have my transmission to Joe Lampy this week, or last weekend, actually. Ended up getting the flu Wednesday. Haven't done anything Wednesday or Thursday night. So here we are Friday night. I gotta have the trans to Joe tomorrow if I want anything to happen in order to possibly make the Gateway Road Course event March 9th for good testing, because we gotta tear the trans apart. We gotta figure out what parts we need, get the parts in, get them put in, and have time to get the trans back in the car, get it to tuning, and we've got about 5 weeks to do all this, maybe 4. We're sitting on 4 weeks to do this. So we really got to bust ass and get to work. I really wanted to time lapse some of this stuff, but I cannot find my camera stand that'll hold my phone. I'll do my best. We're going to get the hood off this thing, get at least the top half of the engine off. We're going to just pull the trans from the bottom, but we pulled Kaz's that way, and it sucked. And I think he ended up a couple days later, because it wouldn't come past the clutch, cut into his trans tunnel and got to the bolts and pulled it out a completely different way, which I wasn't there for. And it was a major pain in the butt. So we're gonna pull the whole engine out from the top. The cool thing is my core support on bolts, just 7 bolts, I wanna say, yeah. 7 bolts, that piece will come off the top, and the engine can easily come right out the front. So should be super easy. Yeah, let's get started. We have got a few more parts in that I forgot to mention. So supercharger pulley is here. This is a 2.4 inch pulley, which is slightly smaller than the factory pulley. As you see, she's, wow, quite a bit smaller. That's terrifying. I have a throttle body spacer because they say unless you're using an LS3 throttle body or something like that, you have to use a spacer to clear something. There is this idler here, so the belt can route well without slipping or whatever. The pulley for the idlers in here. We got this new gasket for inside the supercharger, which sits right there, because that one's a little oil soaked and swelled up. Our fuel rails have come in, finally got in the mail. So once this all goes back together, hopefully it'll make a good, nice, clean install. So the first thing I'm going to do, pull the hood off, just 2 bolts over here, 2 bolts over there at the base. That'll allow me to light this up and get quite a bit more light in here. Pull the fenders off. There are 2 bolts, 10mm bolts under here, 2 under here as well. And then I've got 1, 2, and 3 up front, and then just your basic stuff. I'm gonna have to find a bucket to drain all my coolant into, and then we'll get the intake off, the fuel system out, and hopefully everything will come apart pretty quick. The one thing I'm really not looking forward to doing, which sucks, jacking the car up, always, and getting the drive shaft out. But we will get it done and hopefully get this thing almost out tonight. We'll see how motivation is tonight. So the coil pack brackets are off. Next, I'm just going to do the fuel line. So most factory LSs run a returnless fuel system, meaning instead of having an inlet on this side of your fuel rail and then like a return line coming out of the other side, it is all built into the fuel filter down here. So you've got your in and your out, and our pressure regulator is built into your fuel filter, and it maintains your pressure there, and then it just takes your fuel just in to either this side or this side, however you have the rail set up. But it works out pretty well for the most part, except for on some LSs you'll see some fuel starvation on these back cylinders. I've had pretty much good luck with it for me. But I'll get that fuel line pulled off, and then we will get the intake pulled off, and from there it's just fluids and mounts, and she's ready to come out. If you look around this area right down here, you'll notice that a lot of stuff looks like it's either wet now or it's had a lot of oil leak onto it. And I thought, well, maybe my valve covers were leaking a little bit, but there's not a whole lot of residual there. But this keeps coming loose, and the whole reservoir is wet. And a lot of the wiring all surrounding around where it was is all wet. So we need to find a way to, if it means getting a cap for this that has a better seal, and find a way to make this thing stay. It just has like a little metal clip in here that pops in and keeps it down. We need to find a way to keep that in one place and stop it from seeping over the edge. Right under here is where I ran most of my vacuum lines for my PCV system, my power wire to my alternator, as well as most of my wiring, and I hit it really well under my coil pack brackets because it was a nice clean spot to hide some stuff. And you can see that I do the same thing on the other side with my fuel injector harness and a few other things. Probably not the best place to route this, but I run my cooling fans up through here as well. As you can see, it's got a little hot on the loom. I'm sure there's a better place to run it, but it's been working for me so far. Also, where my coolant temp sensor is, she has been having some issues, so I need to check it. Oh, I found my issue. That is one of the wires to it. So, gonna have to rewire that again. I believe this is the second time I've had to do that. Maybe I should try to route it a little bit better so it doesn't get pulled out again. We'll continue on and get this puppy yanked out of here. And just like that, with 10 bolts to the intake and a few connectors and hoses, she is off. She has accumulated a lot of dirt under there. We made sure not to drop any of it down into the intake ports there. But we'll get a shop vac out, clean all that gunk out of there, tape those cylinders off so nothing else gets in there while we're gone and when the engine's coming out. And gotta pull the headers off still, and the O2 sensor connector is way down yonder. And a few more things and she'll be ready to go. I have most of the coolant drained out of the radiator. I am out of things to collect fluids, so I'm gonna have to go to O'Reilly's in the morning. So I'm probably gonna button a few things up here, call it a night, clean some tools up maybe, and see what happens tomorrow. We made some pretty good progress tomorrow. We're about halfway done. We made some good progress today. We're about halfway done. However, we're halfway through, or this half was the easy half. So tomorrow we got to get the headers off. We got to get the drive shaft out and the engine and trans mounts out, and then drain fluids, and then she's ready to come out after the front end comes off. So yeah, the pain in the ass stuff comes tomorrow. I might try to start getting some of the headers off today. It's just some hex bolts here right down the center, so they're super easy to get to, super easy to get off. Maybe try to attack those and finish her up. Hear what anybody says, electric ratchets are some of the best inventions ever. So effortless, so easy, so nice. For those hard to reach places that your impact won't fit. What a beautiful invention. Okay, so it's Saturday now. We've been getting to work on it. I've got my dad here helping out. Devin's been giving a hand when he's not pulling his engine. This has got to be the slowest LS engine pull ever. I actually wanted to take my time getting the fluids pulled out all cleanly. We pulled the front end off of the car entirely so it comes out really easily. Drained all the fluids into separate buckets so it's easy to get rid of properly instead of letting it go all the way over the floor and having to oil dry it up. But everything is undone. We've got the one header out, the other header is loose, ready to go. All the engine mounts are unbolted, and we've got the clutch line undone. Everything should be ready to come out. Full wiring harness is out of the way. Just gotta hook a chain up, get the cherry picker in there, and yank her out. We're gonna pull the transmission off, hopefully get that over to Joe's house tonight, and I'm gonna check out the clutch and see how badly she needs replaced. Kicking myself in the ass because I had a sponsorship deal set up through ACT, and they said I had to respond by January 31st, in which I completely forgot about, so I'm kind of up the creek on that one. So we'll get this engine ripped out of here and get the transmission pulled off. right, so the engine is out. Made a little bit of a mess with the oil filter relocation lines. The old RPM transmission didn't hold up very long. This thing was a stage 5 and it broke the second event. In my defense, I had some, against me, not in my defense, I had some clutch disengagement issues, which was my own fault. But either way, she's out. We're gonna get this transmission pulled off just with these few bolts all the way around the outside. There's some on the bottom as well as the starter bolts, and we'll get the starter tested and everything like that to make sure that that's at 100%, and warranty it out if need be, because we don't need any issues with that at the track. So we'll get this thing off real quick. See if Old Faithful DeWalt's got the balls to get her off here. All right. It's either a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know yet. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That ain't good. How do we get that sucker out of there? How do we get it on there?
So I was just going to look for it.
Hammer her on? All right, we'll try. Please work. Oh, baby. New bolt next time around. There's a couple on the bottom that look to be a little smaller. Maybe not. Maybe they're the same size. It's just this one more, and that's it. It'll be super easy. Of course, can't get the friggin' ratchet or the impacted over here. Go figure. We got a, my guy, Devin Reddy. Devin the dude coming in clutch. Thanks, dude. All right, see if we can shake this bad boy out. And just like that. All right, so last year we ran, well actually the last 2 years, we haven't taken this thing out since we got her together. We ran an ACT Stage 3 unsprung 6-puck clutch. I didn't realize that I bought an unsprung until after I already ordered it. I was freaking out about it pretty bad. Ended up loving it. The drivability on it was amazing, surprisingly enough. So I'll buy another one. And actually ACT is the company that I got the deal through. And I'm hoping I can sweet talk them and say sorry for forgetting about you guys, and they'll get me a clutch on a deal still, but we'll see how that goes. Let's see how torn up this thing is after 2 seasons. I don't do a whole lot of clutch kicks, so we'll see. actually has a ton of life left on it, surprisingly enough. Almost down, I guess almost down to the rivets, but it didn't have much more on it than that when I got it. There's a few chips out of the edge, so it probably needs replaced. Hot spots are pretty minimal. There's a few, I guess, a few good hot spots. Never mind, those are pretty bad. I can feel those. But we'll get the bell housing taken off the transmission and get this thing over to Lampy's house and get it torn down. So on LS motors, they don't have like a hole in the side of the bell housing where there's a clutch fork that comes through and pushes out the throwout bearing to engage the clutch. They've got the whole throwout bearing and everything right here built onto the transmission, and the lines actually come through, and then there's a bleeder that comes out the side as well. So I think it's just held on by 2 10 mils, one on each side, and then the sucker just comes right out. And then to get the bell housing itself off, I believe there's some bolts here on the outside, and then you can get the front plate off and get it torn down through there. So get this puppy taken off here.
That 10.
No, I'm good for now. All right, let's get these puppies pulled off here if we can get to them.
Nobody can quit smoking, man. I wish I could hang out with the cool kids. I should have hung out with the nerds and drama kids.
I still think you're cool, Devin.
Thanks, Bud. That means a lot.
Whoa. Let's see if we got any on the bottom here. Yeah. I may have missed one somewhere. We're good. I can hit this bad boy with a dead blow and get her knocked off. I guess we should take this. So, yeah, just 1 10 mil there, and then one under here. And it literally just slides out. If I can get these hoses out, that is. That's the fun part. That wasn't coming through there. No. I guess it could.
Put it on there.
It should. If it holds on the other side. Nope.
Nope.
You know, I may just take the nut off over here. Here, I'll just do that. See what we got here. Ooh, good guess. Hey, you want to come hold this bad boy transmission? Oh, wait, you got her. Super duper. Nope, we're good now. I don't need you. Cool. All right, now let's get this bad boy off here. Let's get this dead blow here. One good one. And she off. Cool. That's a T56, boys. Okay, so the transmission is dropped off at Lampy's. We tore it down. Seems like I broke some of the keys in my synchronizer assemblies. So I'm gonna get 2 new synchronizer assemblies because they were pretty roughed up. My second gear was toast. And my reverse was pretty rough. I really don't know why. I mean, I guess the longer I drove on it, it started to pop out of reverse for some reason. But it'll probably be about $700 or $800 in parts for everything new. I'm not going to replace everything in it just simply because of the money factor, and I want to be able to afford Pro 2 a little bit better. I could replace everything, but you know, that's a big expense, and at that point I might as well just go through RPM Trans and get a new one, which I could do for, you know, not much more than I could get another one for. So now that mess is all over the floor here, right in the middle of my workspace, it's time to make a new mess. So my friend Matt is here, who has been helping me a little bit recently.
he used to do a lot of fiberglass work, or I guess be around it at his last job. So him and I are gonna do some tackling on repairing my old body panels. I have Origin over fenders, so I'd like to keep them. So one's just got a little hole in it, and then the other one's got a little tear in it, so that should be pretty simple. The front conversion fenders just have a couple of little cracks that we're gonna do some repair work on. The back bumper's in good shape, and we're just gonna buy a new front bumper for this year. Other than that, everything's good. We'll be able to just paint it. But I'll show you a little bit of kind of what we got going on, what we're repairing, and how we're gonna do it. Because it's not every day people do fiberglass work, and they don't realize how easy it is. And it's just something that anybody can do. You break something at a drift event, crap, I gotta buy a new bumper or whatever. Super simple fix. You can do it like I do it, where I usually just glue it, slap it back together, just to where it's all in one piece. And I have, my paint color is a Corvette color, so I can just go get the perfect match paint, give it a little spray, and you can hardly even tell that it's that bad. It's a good 20-footer, and it's a drift car. Who needs anything more than that? You can also go a little bit more in depth with it, which is hopefully what we're gonna do this time, rather than just slapping it back together and spraying it. We're gonna get it all back together in one piece, and fill the front with some Bondo and try to do this the right way. Also, side skirt broken half, so we're gonna put that back together. I'm kind of a pro at it. I've done it like 3 times now. Okay, so I'm just gonna film a little update here. I am headed down to Joe Lampe's house. It is Saturday. Exactly a week ago, we tore the transmission apart. I got the parts ordered, and we are headed there to get it reassembled. So what ended up being wrong with it, I don't remember if I told you guys or not yet. Second gear had the gears kind of sheared down a little bit. Not the actual helical gear itself that spins the counter shaft and the main output shaft and everything like that. It was actually, there's a couple of little gears on the front of it. That actually got ground down quite a bit. Also, all of my synchro blocking rings were thrashed, absolutely down to nothing. So there was maybe one that had a little bit left, I think Joe said. Also, as soon as we pulled the case, there are 2 magnets at the bottom of the T56 on the inside. Not only were they covered in metal shavings, which is pretty much to be expected on any trans, but they had a couple pieces of my keys in there. For you who don't know what a key is, I'll show you guys in a little bit whenever we get them to Joe's. But the keys are real thin, crap, little pieces of metal that can break. I ended up upgrading to some billet keys, which I'll show you more when I get there as well. But I ended up doing new second gear and new reverse, because I've kind of been having some issues with that as well. A full synchronizer set, new snap rings and roll pins, because some of those kind of came out a little bit easier than we would have liked. I also got a new 1 to 2 synchronizer assembly and a new 3 to 4 synchronizer assembly as well. I believe that is all. Like I said, I'll kind of go over the new stuff whenever we get there, and I'll go over what needed to be replaced and why. Joe knows a little bit more about it than I do, so I might just have him do some of the talking. Sorry, this video is a whole lot of strung out talking and stuff like that. It's just, there's a lot of things to talk about, and I want you guys to understand it without me just kind of saying words and you being like, yeah, I have no idea what that is. So I just want to do a little bit more of in-depth explaining, because I want it to be like you guys next week can go out and have a good idea of how to build a Pro 2 car that's going to be very well competitive. But aside from that, yeah, I guess I'll just continue on this drive, and I'll talk to you when we get there. Okay, so we're at Joe's house now. We have the T56 torn apart, spread out to where we can kind of remember what's going on here. Cleaned off all the gasket stuff. I want to go over kind of what's broken, if I can remember what's broken. What's broken, Joe?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, okay. So we messed up second gear pretty good. And on these synchro assemblies, what we've ran into a few times is you see these little keys here, they break a lot. So what a lot of upgrades that people do is put a solid billet key in, which if you look real closely, it's one solid piece. Those are the upgraded keys that a lot of people put in, but it seems that mine has been replaced at one point. Where's the other one at here?
So you can see these
Well,
guys are
this is
missing
half of it.
completely.
But these keys, I know in the bottom of the casing we found a half a key. We found one earlier when we were going. But yeah, here's your fiddle focus. Yeah, my guy. You can see that that thing's pretty messed up. And this is one of the good billet ones too. We just had a whole bunch of issues. So new parts that we got for the trans. We got new synchros for the 1 to 2, the 3 to 4. A new second gear and a new reverse gear, all new blocking rings, roll pin snap ring kit, and then billet keys for 1 to 2 and 3 to 4 with new snap rings. So without the keys and the snap rings in for the synchro, it comes apart just like this, pretty simple. The keys will slide in to these 3 holes here, then the snap rings will hold it all in place. And then this one's got factory keys here. I'll kind of show you what it looks like. See how it's just kind of like a stamped steel and it's hollow on the inside. They snap real easy. And mine seemingly had been replaced. And this moves back and forth to engage the gears, once the synchros and everything are on. Synchros are all different through gears, first and second. Look like this guy here. And then 3rd through 6th looks like these. And then you've got just your basic brass one for reverse. And we wanted to do new snap rings, new roll pins, because they were wearing out pretty good. And a lot of them came out way too easily. Joe has a really nice press, so we were able to get it apart pretty good. This is a bearing spacer that's not supposed to come in any contact with anything. And you can tell that it's pretty burnt and crispy. So we cleaned it up as good as we could. It's not going to hurt putting it back in, because like I said, it's not supposed to come in contact with anything. And everything should be okay. Is there anything specific that you think we should talk about?
No, I mean, these are the basic upgrades you gotta do to any T56 to make it reliable. I had a T56 in my car for the last 2 years, and I've broken quite a few of them, so these are the common parts that typically you go through. So it's good to get these knocked out now instead of later when it breaks again. So.
Right. So Joe approached me 3 or 4 months ago, and he drives this Turbo LS Lexus, and he's gone through what, 4 transmissions in the last 2 years?
4 T56s.
So he has gone through changing out the C5 ones, the vet ones, and the F-body ones.
Yep.
Mine's an F-body one, so it's the cheaper ones. But he approached me and offered to help me replace a bunch of the stuff in here and fix whatever's needed. I was gonna go dog box. Long story short, that didn't work out, so we're gonna go this route and try to replace it and see how long we can make it last through the season. And maybe we'll be able to get some footage of getting this all back together. Okay, so we got her coming back together here. We've got the new Synchro coming on a 3rd gear, right?
Yep.
3rd gear.
So one of the ways you can tell when these are worn out, so this is our old one. So you can see there's no air gap between the blocking ring and the gear. Pop your new one on there, should have about 20 thousandths or so. Just a little bit of air gap.
Plenty of air gap there.
So that's a good synchro.
And then so these little notches here in your Synchro may link up with the keys here to kind of keep this in the same speed as the synchronizer assembly. And that's what actually allows your smooth shifting to happen. It's kind of crooked. Check it out. If that's the one I assembled, it makes sense. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but I'm trying to figure it out. Probably bought the wrong stuff. Technical difficulties.
That's very interesting.
Cool, so we got it seated in. I just didn't click the key all the way in the slot where it needs to be. Got her all in, everything's good. And then it just pushes down and that's what engages your gear. And then this will go up the same way. And that's how you engage the other gear. So, pretty simple. We need to get that pushed back on the shaft, so it's gonna be pretty hard to film that. All right, so right now we're pressing on 4th gear, we're pressing the shaft into 4th gear with Joe's super fancy press. Bound up a little bit. No big deal. Everything feel good? Easy peasy. So we got a side-by-side comparison of second gear, and I want to show you kind of what issues I had. So this is ideally what your gear would look like. Perfect triangles in each one. If you go over to my current one, they're all sorts of matted down. I had some serious clutch disengagement issues. My fault on the install, and it was grinding every single time. And finally she had enough. She will not go in gear. So, putting the new gear on now, I'm gonna get her pressed on, and hopefully we'll be able to use second this year. After 2 years of not having second gear. Okay, so the transmission is all back together now. I didn't get to film much because it takes two hands to do a lot of the stuff that we did, pressing some stuff back onto the shaft and then getting everything put together. A lot of it was a two-person job, but it's all together, seemingly going into gear just fine. I don't have my shifter with me, but we just used what we had and it shifted into gear just fine. So we'll take it home, we'll get it put in, hopefully get a new clutch put on and see how this thing does, I guess.